Dear Jewel, I left you with a few things to always hold on to. Loyalty, elusiveness, and brute force.
No matter where you land on the recently released Ghostbusters remake, there's one thing we can all agree on. Bustin makes me feel good. Or does it? I can personally attest to how dancing to the Ghostbusters theme song in a well-lit pub at 3 AM makes me feel good. Real good. But I'm not ready to let Ray Parker Jr. dictate my feelings on the umbrella action of Bustin. So I set out to play every Ghostbusters game ever made. Then I saw how many there were, so I just did like 5. Produced in 1984, the first Ghostbusters game was originally released for the Commodore 64 and Atari 800. The game was later ported to several systems, including the Atari 2600, Sega Master System, and the NES, which is the most notorious version, and thus the one I played. After spending 10 minutes playing what I thought was a Pac-Man clone because grid, ghosts, etc., I realized that I could select different buildings on the map, which would take me to a brief driving section in which I'd dodge Ecto-1 through dense Manhattan traffic, all while the grating, chiptune Ghostbusters theme song played on a loop. As Ghostbusters has always prided itself on realism, I was happy to find that my car could run out of fuel, and I'd be treated to a cutscene of 2 pixelated busters pushing the car to the nearest service station. Once I arrived at my first stop, I loaded up on proton beams, a ghost vacuum, and a bunch of ghost food, ready to go out and feel good through Bustin. Oh, did you not realize there was a second screen on that shop screen? Remember how in Ocarina of Time when you need to get up Death Mountain but the only way to buy the Hylian shield is to navigate to the hidden menu at the shop in the bazaar? It was at this point that I threw my hands up in frustration and gave up. Bustin makes me f***ing angry. Because Sega had to live up to their slogan of doing what Nintendo don't, they developed and released a good Ghostbusters game for the Mega Drive/Genesis in 1990. Titled simply Ghostbusters, the game allows you to choose to play as one of 3 Ghostbusters: Ray Stantz, Peter Venkman, and Egon Spengler, with the very noticeable absence of Winston Zeddemore, and partake in platforming, shooter, contra-light action as you answer calls about an increase in paranormal presence around the city. Gameplay is simple action platforming that sees you blast away at common, low-level ghosts while navigating treacherous platforms in MC Escher designed houses. Each level has a midpoint boss that, once defeated, is able to be captured in a ghost trap in order to replenish your character's energy before you move on to the final boss. Maybe it's been too long between 2D action platformer drinks, but I found Ghostbusters to be brutally hard. Getting hit by an enemy causes your chosen Ghostbuster to jump back far enough to send you falling off the ledge you took 10 minutes climbing onto. And remember aiming with a D-pad? Remember how responsive it is to aim on a diagonal and how it doesn't hurt your thumbs at all? Bustin makes my thumbs blister. Okay, let's get this out of the way straight up. This game has flaws, but holy shit if it doesn't make you feel like a Ghostbuster. Set 2 years after the conclusion of Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters the video game casts players as the Rookie to the established New York City Ghostbusters. Venkman insists that you only be referred to as Rookie in case something happens to you while you're testing the new experimental equipment. On your first day, a massive PKE event hits New York City, and it's up to you and the OG crew to answer the call of a spooked city. The game reunites the original Ghostbusters, including the impossible to get a hold of Bill Murray, and was script doctored by original writers Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. Let me tell you about the opening hour or so of Ghostbusters the video game. The very first thing you do is slide down a fireman's pole at GBHQ, and if you're like me, immediately run back upstairs and do it again. Then you bust the containment unit, unleashing Slimer. Go to the Hotel Sedgwick in order to recapture him. Ruin a bunch of shit, including but not limited to the manager's day, a fridge, a staircase, general decor, some dude's bar mitzvah. You then recapture Slimer just in time to see that the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man is back, and then you battle him in Times Square with the goddamn Ghostbusters. Using the proton pack is so good. Blasting the unwieldy particle beam looks exactly how you remember from the movies, and it's impossible to aim without causing a serious amount of damage to the surrounding architecture and furnishings. Trapping a ghost is satisfying, as it takes a little bit of wrangling the wily spectres with fishing like yanks on the right stick before they're successfully caught. Oh man, I think we all know how this one made me feel. That's right, Bustin makes me feel good. For real, it's like $10 on Steam. Go get it right now. The latest Ghostbusters game is a nostalgic trip down memory lane, sure to remind you of a time when every summer blockbuster or popular TV series had a hastily produced, undercooked, and overpriced video game tie-in. Ghostbusters is not a good game. It's not broken or anything. I mean, if you move the sticks and you press the buttons, stuff happens, but it's not worth the $69.95 I paid for it. Set after the events of the 2016 movie, Ghostbusters allows you to choose from one of 4 very memorable rookies: the big chain gun fella, Average Assault Rifle Joe, Dual Pistol Speedy Sheila, and Shotgun Lady, in order to bust ghosts in a twin-stick shooter with repetitive and overly long levels. After a lame but kinda good-looking opening cinematic, I was let loose in the Aldridge Mansion, the site of the first case from the movie. I shot my gun and threw grenades, all while my teammates incessantly quipped, "Yes, possessed," and "I'm like the MVP of EVP." In the 60 minutes I played before my soul left my body to wander limbo as it felt it would be a better use of its time, I managed to complete 2 levels. Now, that's not due to poor performance on my part, but because the second level is so unnecessarily long and the characters are so slow that I was sure the game had glitched and was sending me through the same open, empty squares of graveyard for 40 minutes. Trapping ghosts is achieved by mashing X or A depending on your platform of choice in order to increase the score multiplier before the trap slams shut, confining your corporeal catch to its temporary prison. I pride myself on my button mashing abilities. I mean, I was the only one of my friends not to use a turbo fire or another person during the torture sequence in Metal Gear Solid, but even I couldn't get the multiplier above 5 before my hand would cramp and I started rethinking every decision that had led my life to this point. Bustin reminds me of the time I spent all my Christmas money on South Park for PS1. So, I guess Bustin doesn't make you feel good. Take that line in a song no one ever took literally when applied to video games. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm off to see if the power of love is an adequate substitute for train fare.